What's up, gamers? Welcome. My name's Kevin. This is Right Gamer. And in today's episode, we're going to be jumping back in time to 2015 when I uploaded a video when this channel was called Gamer Rant. And the video was flagged because apparently Gamer Rant was an idiot back in the day. It was flagged for misleading, repetitive and misleading metadata. So if you're unfamiliar with YouTube's policy, there was once a time many YouTubers would do this. They'd put tags in the description box. It was a little bit after I uploaded this video that I became familiar with YouTube's policy. So I went and stopped doing it, and I also edited a few videos that still had tags in the description. I missed a video, and it was flagged. It's been flagged for years. I never really noticed it because I was just one day, this is like a couple years ago, going through the videos, and I noticed that I had a video that was been flagged, and YouTube never gave me a notification for it or anything of that nature. Now I can actually watch the video.
Panic over E3.
The video's available. I was going to do a screen recording, but the video was uploaded in standard definition, so it looks like ass. So we are just going to re-record the video within of itself. So let's just jump right into this. Feminist game critics mocked for moral panic over 2015 E3 game trailers. All right, this is Feminist Frequency and a guy named Jonathan. Feminist Frequency. It's really troubling and depressing that the E3 audience is enthusiastically cheering for bodies being ripped apart. Well, I can tell you one thing, Feminist Frequency. The reason why they're doing this is because, unlike you, they can separate fantasy, fiction from reality. Because objectively, I can prove your statement wrong because there have been plenty of tragedies in the world. And can you tell me how many people celebrated those tragedies? All right. That's that's got so many straw man and other fallacies to it that it's beyond ridiculous. We have a grown-ass woman who apparently cannot separate reality from fantasy. There is nothing even on a moral level, objectively on a moral level, that says people cheering for the death of fictional things that do not really exist is somehow unmoral, because humanity has actually objectively proven that that's not how they would really react. Let's move on to the next individual, which happens to be Jonathan right here, as we can see. When it comes to violence, I see folks saying watching movies and playing games are the same. Nope, fundamentally different experience. I'm going to fundamentally tell you objectively why Jonathan is incorrect. If we jump back in time, when we are looking at like a lot of public shootings and whatnot, a lot of politicians would use this same rhetoric, is that watching a movie is not the same thing as playing a video game because it is you killing someone in the video game. The problem with here, let me just use a quick analogy that I think anyone with a brain and common sense would understand, and anyone that can actually separate fiction from reality. Keanu Reeves needs to be arrested because he has killed a lot of people. Obviously, if you're keeping on board with this, I'm referring to all of the movies he has killed fictional characters in. That is the same logic that Jonathan and many politicians before him are trying to perpetuate with this tweet here. All right. They're trying to give video games a bad reputation by saying, hey, you know what? It is you pulling the trigger. Therefore, movies and video games is not taken in the same way. And that's just bullshit. The only difference is one is more interactive. And beyond that, there's no other difference. It is not you pulling the trigger. All right. Because as a person who was in the military, who has actually shot a real gun, this is not the same thing. And there are plenty of people, both officers and military personnel, the world over, that have had the unfortunate event of actually having to pull the trigger and actually take the life of someone who more than likely can tell you it is 100% not the same thing as doing it in a fictional video game. And the fact that we have individuals and politicians today and back in the day using this same kind of rhetoric for their own personal, opinionated political viewpoints and gain really tells a lot about them. Other than the fact that they clearly can't separate fantasy from reality. So yes, on an objective level, watching a movie and playing a game is the same thing because it's all fictional. And there are quadrillions of people that have died, are living, that have been able to separate fantasy from reality, and no form of violent entertainment has objectively never made them commit a crime. You don't even need some kind of scientific study to tell you that. That's why all scientific studies are a load of shit, because numbers don't lie. There are millions upon millions of people that consume violent entertainment, be it the old school tradition of verbal storytelling before the introduction of radio and TV, more modern things such as video games, etc. Yeah, you get the point. So, let's move on, shall we? This shit is sick. There is something deeply, deeply, seriously wrong with anyone cheering for this Doom 4 trailer. No, there isn't, because, again, Jonathan, there are actual grown adults out there that can separate and differentiate reality from fantasy, unlike you. In fact, that's probably the only thing you're really proving from your tweets is your own lack of maturity when it comes to separating fantasy from reality. All right, let's dive deeper into Mr. Jonathan's mindset. We just saw a packed auditorium full of adults cheering at seeing bodies cut in half with a chainsaw. Really think about that for a moment. And we are going to think about that for a moment because I want you to look at that tweet right there. All right? And now, once again, context matters. You remember that degree right up there, degree. BFA in creative writing. All right? Context is something a writer is quite familiar with, ladies and gentlemen. And his tweet completely is misleading people who aren't even aware that he's talking about a goddamn video game in the first place. So he is purposely and willfully misleading people just so he can get that motherfucking retweet and that like. I don't know. It's looking more like Jonathan's nothing but an attention whore than someone who honestly cares about the bullshit he's actually spitting out. Besides the fact that he's already proven he can't separate fantasy from reality. Think about it without getting defensive. No one wants to ban Doom, but what message does that send to the world about the gaming community? Well, here, let me rephrase what he just tweeted. Think about it without getting defensive. No one wants to ban Game of Thrones, but what message does that send to the world about the television community? Think about it without getting defensive. No one wants to ban A Song of Ice and Fire, but what message does that send to the world about the book community? Once again, what this comes down to is a grown man and a grown woman who have never been educated enough to understand the difference between fiction and reality. Because objectively, no fictional form of violent entertainment has ever motivated anyone to commit a crime. Objectively. Numbers don't lie, ladies and gentlemen. You don't need a scientific study to prove that violence doesn't cause real-world violence, because think how many years people have been telling violent stories, and then those stories evolve to be told in a different way on the radio, on television, in video games. And what are we looking at? Quadrillions of people who have consumed violent entertainment at one time period or another, in one way or another, and have never committed a crime because of it. Numbers don't lie. The only thing that Jonathan is proving is honestly his lack of brain cells. Hope you like this video in some fashion or form. If you do, you can always hit that subscribe button within of itself. I do have a playlist of old gamer rant videos. You can check them out if you want. The idea behind the new name channel is to kind of talk more positive things about video games as well, because the channel was pretty much dedicated to a lot of negative things about gaming. And talking about a bunch of negative stuff can really burn you out. You can get a lack of interest. So the idea behind the revamping of this channel is to do a little bit of both, all right? The positives, the good, the bad, all that stuff. So hope you enjoyed the video in some fashion or form. You can always subscribe, give it a like, and I'll see you on the next video.